Hello everyone, welcome again to another series of video from Electronic Eternity. This time around we'll be looking at data parsing. So this is the second part of the data parsing video. If you could recall, we have done our first video covering the simple parts of data parsing, and this is the second one where we will be covering something a bit more complex when it comes to data parsing. Alright, so without further ado, let's jump into it. So, in our previous video, we have talked about how to figure out handphone number, name from here, right? So this time around, we'll be looking at how to figure out ID from the string, right? So, as I mentioned that this part of the video is going to be slightly more complex than the previous one. So let's see why. So in this case, we have ID over here and we also have ID over here, right? So, however, this is the beginning part is the correct one and the second part is the wrong one, right? So the same for the second one. So the second one is basically having the wrong part of the ID at the earlier part of the string, and the second and later on followed by the right one. So this is basically some gibberish, because sometimes when you convert file from one format to another, you kind of tend to have this kind of like hexadecimals or basically some gibberish that is incomprehensible, right? So it happens when you sometimes you copy paste or you convert file to a different format. So that's why I thought of like doing a video particularly on this so that we can learn on how to tackle this. All right, so we have ID, the correct format of the ID and the wrong format of the ID in all these 5 lines, right? So the first thing that we're going to do is simply we are going to find ID, right? When we are trying to find ID, it's going to be the very first one, right? So in this case, it's going to find this, and for the second row it's going to find this. So it can be in any random order depending on where it first finds its ID, right? So in this case the first ID is the correct one, and for the second row it's going to be the wrong one, and the third one is the wrong one, fourth and fifth is still the wrong one, right? So regardless, we are going to try to find our ID because that's where we need to start, right? And next is we're going to check the following 8 characters if it's a digit, right? So this is a right format of ID. As you can see, after the word ID, you have 8 numbers, right? However, in this case, you have some gibberish in between that makes your ID the wrong one, right? So we're going to check if the following 8 digits is the right one or the wrong one. Now, how we're going to do this is going to use this formula. It's going to be mid and then search in A2, and then it's going to take this value in H2, which is basically where we found the word ID, and then +2 because ID has 2 characters, +2, and then how many characters do we need is basically 8. So that's why we have 8 over here, right? So to prove to you that this works, I'm going to just take this and I'm going to place it here, and as you could see, it works, right? So I'm going to pull this all the way down, and the formula is basically reflecting the same value that you saw before, right? Now we have a bit of problem over here because when the formula is still there, the Excel interprets these values as some characters, as some alphanumeric characters, right? So in order to sort of prevail the correct format of these characters, what we're going to do is we have to copy paste as values only. And how you can do that is by Control C, Control V, basically copy paste in the same location again, and then choose this. Choose to retain values only. So once you do that, you can go and convert this to number, right? Or if you have a lot of numbers, you can just select everything and then you can do this, right? You can click convert to number, right? So it doesn't matter how many rows that you have, you can select all at once and then you can convert to number. So let me just show you again that part. I can select everything from top to bottom and then Control C, Control V, retain values only, and then I go here and then I click convert to number. So as you could see, only the first one is being converted to number and the remaining are not, simply because they are not numbers, right? So when we could identify which one is number and which one is not, it makes our job a little bit easier. We go to the next part. The next part is basically check whether this is a number or not. So how we're going to do this is we're going to use a formula called isNumber. So each number will check for the values in the adjacent field, which is in the I column, and then it will tell you whether all the values in that particular column is a number or not, right? So we have number over here, and for the remaining four fields are not. So what are we going to do next, right? So what are we going to do next is, if it's not a number, then we are going to basically find the next ID, right? So the next ID is how we're going to find. We're going to use a formula called mid. I think even in our previous video we have covered this. So mid will basically give you a part of the string, which is why it's called mid. Basically stands for middle. So it's going to take some middle values of a particular string or a sentence, right? So you're going to use A2, which is our text, and then the start number is going to be this one. So what do we have here? So we have the start number. The start number is basically, if let me just go here, right? If you could, this is this normal search, right? This is the very first search. However, over here you can't use the same. So let me show you how the formula looks like. This is the complete formula. So this is A2 and this is the search, which is basically telling us the start. So we are going to start not at the first search ID. We are going to start after the second second ID, right? So let me just demonstrate that to you. So if I were to take this part of the string and this part of the formula, right? If I were to take that and I put it like this, right? So this is basically searching for the word ID in A2, right? So, and it gives you 1 simply because ID is the very first character that we find here. Now, if I were to take this, so let's see what happens here. So over here, I have the find text, and then I'm telling the formula on where to find, and then I'm telling where to basically start. So the start here says you're gonna have to start after the first ID that you find in the string. So that's why we have the start number over here, and in the first one we don't have a start, right? We basically left it blank. We put it 0. Sorry, we left it blank, right? Or you could put it as 1 as well. It would still work, right? So in this formula we have a value defining when it should start. So that's the difference. And then we have the +2. So simply we +2 is because ID contains 2 characters, right? So now let's go back to this formula. You have A2. You basically telling it when to start searching, right? You're going to start searching after the first ID that is being found in the string. And then how many characters do you need? You're going to need 8 characters, right? So that is the exact formula here. So in this case, it's not populating the right value simply because we have found our number here. However, in the following part, as you can see, the right value is being populated, because when we first tried to find the ID, we did not get the right value, right? We did not get the right value. However, on the second time to find ID, we found the right ID where it contains 8 numbers. Over here, it's not 8 numbers, right? The first search gives the wrong one, and the second search gives the right one, right? So how do we put all these formulas together? Basically, we try to find the ID and then the following 8 digits after the ID. If the following 8 digits after the ID is not number, then we're going to keep looking for it after, right? So that's all. So that's the idea behind this formula. So if we take a look at this formula is a bit complicated. So basically it says you check if this is a number or not, and if it is a number, then you just populate this value for me. So as you can see, this formula over here is similar to this one. So if the first search of the ID gives you a number, gives you 8 following numbers, then you simply give me back the value, right? So which is this formula. However, if it's not, then you're gonna have to find it after. You're gonna have to find it. You're gonna have to find it after the first ID, and then give me the 8 values, the 8 characters, right? So which is actually this part of the formula, right? So this is the formula that we discussed just now, right? So if I were to put equal over here, you will see that I get this value. And then if I were to bring it down, which basically finds the uh, next row in the column A, as you can see, this one is A2 and this one is A3 and this one is A4. So it's similar to this one, right? So what we do, we just take the same formula and then we just slot in over here. So just to quickly reiterate, look for the first, check if it's a number or not when it comes to my first ID. If it's yes, just bring me that value. If it's not, you're gonna find for the second ID and then give me the 8 following digits after it, right? So this is how you do it, right? So this part is a bit difficult, right? So you might need to try this on your own for you to understand. I did try my very best in explaining this in as much as detail as possible, right? So but if you couldn't, then try, do some practice, try some experimenting to understand the concept of the formula, and then eventually you'll be able to grasp the idea. Alright, so with that, we have come to the end of the video. I hope you have learned something new. I hope you find this video useful. Until we meet again, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you. Bye bye.